Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Easy Programming. I'm Naveen Mishra. In my previous video, I have started a new topic, exception handling. In this video, we'll continue that topic and we'll know about types of exceptions and all the other things about the exception handling in Java. So let's start our series of Java tutorials. Okay, so let's have a quick review about what are errors and what are the exceptions. So generally, whenever we write a program, we find errors. These errors are the mistakes in a program that makes your program go wrong, that is wrong output. The errors can be categorized into two types, compile time and runtime. Compile time errors are the syntax error that will be caught by the compiler, appropriate error message will be shown to you. You can study the error message and correct your program according to that. These are generally the syntax errors. The examples are semicolon missing, keyword missing, bracket missing, and so on. Sometimes your program may compile successfully but may not produce the output or wrong output is produced. This is because there still exists an error which is not caught by the compiler, and this is a runtime error. So runtime errors are called exceptions, and examples of runtime errors are division by zero, array index out of bound, array store exception, and so on, many more. Whenever an exception occurs, the Java compiler will create an exception object and throws it. So generally what is happening right now is in Java, there are a list of various exceptions which is implemented with the help of classes. Whenever the Java compiler finds the exception, then it matches the exception object with the list of exceptions it has in its library. If match found, the corresponding object is created and the object is thrown to the output window. As soon as the error message is thrown, the execution of your program is stopped and the remaining set of lines or the statements will not be executed. If you want to continue the execution of these programs, these statements even after that, then you have to implement the exception handling. So using exception handling, you can continue the execution of your program even though there is an exception in your program. So to implement exception handling in Java, we have 5 keywords: try, catch, throw, throws, and finally. Let's study about these. So there are 5 keywords: try, catch, throw, throws, and finally. The statements which can cause an exception are placed inside the try block. So let's say we're writing a program here. Let me create a new file here, class here, just a second. Test exception. Okay, here I am putting a main function. Okay, and I'm writing a code to divide 3 numbers. A is equals to 10, divide 2 numbers. B is equals to 0, C is equals to A divided by B. Now you know this will create an error because you cannot divide a number by an error. So you can place this inside a try block. Okay. So inside the try block, the statements which might cause an exceptions are placed. A try block must be immediately followed by a catch block. If not, a runtime compile time error will be generated. As you see here, try is underlined with red line, it means that it is an error. So a try must have a catch block, and catch must catch the exception object thrown from here to here. For this, you have to pass the argument as well, like exception class, AE, any object name, and you can give a warning message or correct your exception here. I'm just giving you a warning message, cannot divide by 0. Okay, and here remaining, I want to test this system.out.println. This code will work for sure. Let's see what happens now. Run my file. There you go. There is this cannot divide by 0 message occurs from here because it means that exception is in this code. The exception is thrown in the catch block. Appropriate error message is shown to you, that is you cannot divide by 0. Then this line is executed. This code will work for sure. Okay. Now what if I do not do this? What if I do not follow this try block and catch block? Let's see what happens. There you go. Now in red it is an exception. The exception is arithmetic exception. The message is divide by 0 in the file text exception main function at line 17. There you go. Okay, so this is an error message generated by the exception message generated by the Java itself. Or you see this 18th and 19th lines are not getting executed because at this part the compiler execution is stopped. Okay, so if I implement this try catch block, the advantage is that the remaining set of lines will be executed. Sorry, just a second. Okay, so these lines will be executed. Now there is only a single line after try catch block. There can be 100 or 200 lines or many lines which needs to be executed even though there is an exception. So exception handling is very useful for this purpose. Okay. Okay, now let's see this. So inside try you place this and then catch and throw. A try block must be immediately followed by the catch block. The catch block must have a matching exception class object as parameter. So what I'm trying to tell you here is, here the exception is arithmetic exception. Okay, and here in the catch block you must have a arithmetic exception, that is matching object. Okay, but sometimes you don't remember all the exceptions messages, or you don't remember all the exception objects. In such case, the exception class is the parent of all the exceptions that exist in Java. So if you do not know that what kind of exception is generated here or what is the exact name of the exception class, then you can use the exception class in the catch argument, which is a parent of all the exception classes, and this will be executed for sure. Okay, now the statements to handle the exception can be placed in the catch block. And again, throw block, the compiler transfers the control from try to catch using the throw keyword. I have not used a throw keyword here because it is automatically working behind the Java compiler execution. So Java is automatically transferring the code from try to catch block using the throw keyword. Okay, so this is the graphical representation. In try block you place the statements that can cause an exception. In catch block, the statements to handle the exception. And from try to catch, throw keyword automatically transfers the control from try to catch block. Okay, so this is your try catch block simple working. Now this is the program that I have explained you earlier. You see this. Now this program I have written in simple Sublime editor and hard coding it and compiling it using the instruction. So there you go, the same error messages and the correction, how you can correct your message. Okay, so let's move on now. Various exception classes and types. Now just like arithmetic exception, array index out of bound exception, there are many types of exceptions which are generally categorized into checked and unchecked exceptions. Okay, so let's study about checked exceptions. In the catch block you have to specify the exception. Those are checked exceptions. Checked exceptions are handled at compile time by the compiler, and you must type the exact exception class object in there. That will be your checked exceptions. Okay, the checked exceptions are used for the cases like you are connecting the code with your database and which is not working, or you are implementing the network connection which is not working. Okay, for this classes you can use checked exception. And checked exceptions, all the checked exceptions are the subclass of exception class. Okay, and the list of some commonly used checked exceptions are file not found, interrupted, and class not found exceptions. There are many more, but I am just mentioning the main exceptions or the usually common ones. Okay, so let's study about unchecked exceptions. At runtime, these are checked at runtime. Those are checked at compile time by the compiler. These are checked by the runtime, at the runtime by the interpreter. Okay, these are not part or subclass of exception class. So you have to make sure that you have to create the object of these classes. So these are the unchecked exceptions. Okay, in theoretical exams of BCA, MCA, BTech, the questions related to checked and unchecked exceptions is usually comes, and very important one. Okay, so let's move on. This is the theoretical part, checked and unchecked exceptions. Now I'll explain the exact name of the class of exception and what is the cause of raising that exception. So first of all, let's study about arithmetic exception, which will be raised in this case. I'm dividing 10 by 0, which is not possible, so arithmetic exception will be generated here. The other exception is array store exception. What do you mean by that? Here I have created an integer array which is of int data type. So I should pass only numbers like 10, 20, 30. But here I'm trying to pass a string, okay, which will not work. So it will generate an array store exception. Okay. Now array index out of bound exception. Now here this exception will be raised in this case. Basically I have created an array of 5, so which is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the numbering is 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So there the index is only from 0 to 4, but here I am using the index number 10, which does not exist. Okay, so it will generate a runtime error, and the exception class object will be of array index out of bounds exception. Okay, now the next is file not found exception. When you are implementing file handling, let's say you have a file students.txt file which you are trying to open in your program using the concept of file reader class. Okay, now if the file exists, then it will be created. It will be the object of the file reader class will be created. Now what if you don't have this class? Then it will generate an error message that file does not exist. Okay, file not found exception. And the next is null pointer exception. Now when we open a file like this one, which is students.txt, and here are some contents like 1 abc, some contents are there. Okay, when you open a file, your cursor points out at the first position. Okay, but when I place this thing, when I did this file read equals to null, so what I'm trying to tell you is this pointer points to nothing, this points to null, nothing is there. And then you try to read your code here, which will not work because there is no location, there is nothing. Okay, so if you're trying to read from a file location which does not exist or points to a null, then it will generate a null pointer exception. These are the general exception class objects, and generally the exceptions, the causes of exceptions. You can read more, you can have more, but I'm just mentioning the main ones. Okay, so let's move forward. Now multiple catch statement. What if your code produces more than one error? So what I'm trying to tell you here is, let's say I have an array of 2 elements. It means 2 blocks 0 and 1 are created, and what I try to do is I say ARR 0 and ARR 3 divide by 0. Okay, now right now there are 2 kinds of exceptions. One is this array index out of bound, and another is this arithmetic exception. So for 2 exceptions, if your try block contains more than one kind of exceptions, then you can have multiple catch statements. I can have an arithmetic exception class here. I can have an array index out of bounds exception, and I can have a separate error messages. Okay, cannot divide by 0, array index out of bound, or some other exception. Now since for a single try I am implementing multiple catch statements, then it is called multiple catch statements, multiple catch block. Okay, but it doesn't mean that all the catch blocks will be executed. From try block only one kind of exception will be raised, and only that exception is passed in the catch block. Now when the compiler tries this array 3 divided by 0, so first of all, just like normal division in which we do like this one, like simple division is done like this way, 10 is here and we divide by 0, then it generates an error. It tries to do in the same way, so it says array 3, so it tries to put an element of array 3 here. This is 0th position, this is first position for 10 and 20, but there is no third position. Okay, so it generates an exception here only and does not move on with the code and moves out of the block by raising an catch exception error. Now the error is array index out of bound, right? It doesn't match, but here the catch parameter matches with the array index out of bound and this code will be executed. Okay, so based on the operator's associativity and the working, this square bracket array index will be solved first and will generate an exception and the matching catch parameter will be executed. Okay, so these are the multiple catch statement. Only one catch statement will be executed and the matching one, not all ones, everyone. Okay, you can have multiple catch, any number of catch statements followed by the try block. So this is a multiple catch statement. Then finally, now this catch block will only work if there is an exception. If there is no exception, like array let's say 0 divided by 10, if there is no exception, then your catch block will not work at all. Okay, let me try to run my file one more time. Okay, just a second. There you go, the answer is 1, this one. Okay, so these catch block will only work if there is an exception in your try block, but if there is no exception in try block, these catch blocks will not be executed. But sometimes you need a set of statements that are to be executed for sure, irrespective of whether an exception is raised in the try block or not. In such cases, you can place a finally block. A try catch block can be immediately followed by the finally block. The statements written in finally block are sure to execute. This will be printed for sure. So you can have a finally block and the statements of the finally block are sure to execute irrespective of whether there is an exception in the try block or not. Okay, there you go. Even if there is an exception, this line will be executed for sure. Generally, finally blocks are introduced to close the database connection, to close the file connection, or to terminate some useful part in your programming. So you can have a finally block as well. Okay, finally block can be placed immediately after try block or by after try catch block. If you want to execute some block of statements for sure, you implement finally block. In generally finally block, we close the file or we close the database connection. Okay, so you can have try catch finally like this one. Okay, I think okay, let's continue this video tutorial. I was about to close my video, but let's finish this topic as well. Nested try block. You can have multiple tries. Inside one try block, you can have another try block, which is called nested try. Okay, so just like nested if else, just like nested for loop, nested switch case, you can have a nested try block. So inside one try, you can have another try catch block. This is called nesting, and this part is called inner try block, and this part is called outer try block. Okay, so these are the inner and outer try blocks. So you can have nested try catch block. Now one advantage of nested try is that the inner try block can have no catch. If you do not place a catch block for the nested try, then for this try, this catch block will work. So the inner tries can have a catch block of their own. If they do not have their catch block, in such case, the outer try block or the parent try block catch statements can be used for execution or to check for the exception class objects. This is the advantage for inner try block. Okay, this is the program. So what I have done is, this is the first try block which ends here, and this is the catch block of this try block. Okay, and inside this try block I have placed another try catch block. Now this is a inner try block. Okay, and for inner try I have a catch block here. Now I have placed an array and generated an array index out of bound exception. Now this exception message will execute because it matches. Even if I remove this array index out of bound exception catch block, then this catch block will be executed. Okay, so this is your output. This is a program of nested try. You can have a nested try block, a try block inside the another try block. That's it from today's video. We will continue the throw and throws keyword as well as the user defined exceptions in the next video. That's it from this video. See you in the next video. Please do share and subscribe to my channel. Share my channel videos with your friends. See you in the next video. Cheers.